you got a figure for the success rate without your intervention?
It's one of these ones where I'll be honest and say I don't know too many children that will go into a group home and come out better.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it does exist, I haven't seen it. I'll answer it that way. That I'm not to say that there aren't beautiful people trying to do their best within that system. And I'm sure there are children out there that have built amazing lives after, because they're, incredible individuals that deserve our admiration. But if I was to look at that system and what it actually contributes to children, it isn't based on our understanding of trauma. It's probably the worst thing you could do for reactive attachment disorders as well, is place people together in those type of environments. So we know it doesn't work. Like that's not really up for grabs. I don't think you'll find anyone in the system that will say, we want to see children in these environments because we believe in them. They'll tell you we have to do this because there's no other option. And in our system, in a practical sense, that might be true. But for us as a society, that doesn't have to be true. We absolutely can do things to change this reality. And I think my organization, in a small way, is proof of that. We're taking the kids that have psychologist reports that say they're irreparable, psychologists putting that in writing, where it's just absolutely not true. They can improve their life so much, but it does need something pretty miraculous to happen, which is someone to put up their hand and say, yeah, I'll bring that into my life, into my own home. And that's hard work. Hard work.
I thought it might be worthwhile now trying to get you to say the way you would have characterized what you thought was wrong with the system and therefore what we needed to do in our first conversation.
For me, it's really coming from seeing three cultural issues with our current practice. So that's number one. It's the system safety versus the safety for the child. So we have a system that talks a lot about safety. We're really interested in it. We do a lot of forms. We have a lot of meetings about it. But if you look at whose safety is that meeting, it's usually meeting the safety for the system to prove that it's doing good work, rather than actually any lived experience changing for the child. And I often use the metaphor here of like a staircase. And if you say, if our job is to get kids up the staircase, you can put in one or two handrails, excuse me, you can put in one or two handrails and you can make it a bit safer and a bit easier to get up. But if you put in 4 or 5 handrails, or if you keep having 14 government inquiries, and each time you bring in new regulations, and at some point you've got 26 handrails going up a staircase, how your people in the system, they're spending 80-90% of their time meeting the system's needs, filling in forms, talking about polishing handrails, rather than someone that has the time to support these families, support these children, be connected enough to them that if they've got a problem, they come to them and actually get help. So that's the first problem, is going, right now we've got a ratio of people spending their time. They're spending 80% of these workers to meet the system's needs, and that isn't changing the lived experience for children. So that's technical safety on paper for the system rather than safety for kids. That's number one. Number two is we got a system that's using a methodology to understand what works, that's around measurement. I was talking about those kids that get referred to my model, and we've measured everything about their behaviors, how often they kick, how often they spit, all of their incident reports. But that doesn't really bring us very much closer to what we should do about it or what the problem is. And that's where I think if you were to sit anyone down in their life and you can go, what's the most important thing in your life? They're going to tell you friends, family, maybe their purpose, maybe religion. And if we were to say to the same people, can you measure it? Can you prove it to me? It's unlikely that they're orientating their life around, because they're doing a strengths and difficulties questionnaire every 3 months, and that's what's orientating their decisions about who they should have as relationships. But that's what we're currently doing for kids in out-of-home care, is we orientate our practice towards what we can measure rather than what the people that are affected by the system tell us is meaningful. And you can make a pretty profound change instantly just by asking the people you're trying to work with, what do you want? And, I get it all the time when I'm meeting children, we're trying to find the right match. And they say, I'd love to live on a farm. Don't want to be in the city anymore. I want this, I want that, I want that. And you can actually try from that basis of saying, for this young person right now, these are the things that are important. They want to see their uncle that I haven't seen for 4 years. So I won't harp on about that, but I think
I'll jump in and interrupt you to just mention that in Family by Family, this program that the Australian Centre for Social Innovation designed, there was a tiny little marker. Sometimes I would explain it to people in government and they would think that what I was saying is if you do this, your system will work. And what I was saying was this is showing you how this other system was designed. Taking one little thing out of it isn't going to, that's just a small thing. And so I then started asking organisations that were running these kinds of programs for government, what efforts are put into matching caseworkers with cases? Well, none at all. It's like a taxi rank process. You just got that case manager. Well, that just tells you everything. That is just a tiny little snippet of how this whole thing is just completely round the wrong way.
What's worse is that caseworker is probably only going to stick around for 6 months and then they're off to the next job or secondment.
Well, and the caseworker hates it too. I mean, this is clearly going to improve the experience of the caseworker if the matching is well done. Anyway, you press on because you were getting up to number 3.
Yeah, number 3, and this is really the heart of it. We've already touched on it. It's what is a real relationship? And I think our system right now is incredibly confused. We use the word relationship and we're talking about rapport, or we use the word relationship in some very strange contexts where I don't think they would stack up in our own life. Like I often use the example that I've never met anyone at a social engagement and said, hey, I really like you. Let's be friends on Thursday between 4 and 6, but only for 2.5 years. And if I leave my current job, we can't speak anymore. That's not how a real relationship works. And I think what we've currently done is pick up clinical and medical concepts of care that make absolute sense of having a uniform boundary if we have a person seeing a counsellor for 1 hour a month, and make absolutely no sense if we use it as the dominant doctrine to raise children in out-of-home care. These children need connections, and those connections need to have boundaries that are contextual based on who that adult is in their life and how long they'll be around. So a lot of our work is trying to say we're not trying to reproduce professional distance and these clinical medical concepts. And actually the thing that works, I've never met a kid that said, Jarrod, what's changed my life was this great case plan someone did for me when I was 15. And so rather than ignoring that, let's build on that. Let's find good adults, stable adult relationships, and let's bank on that to keep kids safe. So that's probably those 3 points when I came at it, is saying we need to spend our time on actually changing kids' lived experience, things that actually make them safer, give them relational safety through kids, not just doing paperwork. Secondly, we need to orientate towards what people tell us actually means something. And thirdly, we need to actually give kids access to real connections, not just this weird game of you're connected to me, but only in this very specific way.